Hey guys, Dan Buglio with painfreeyou.com. Today I want to talk about how, H-O-W. And I often get a lot of questions about, why do I have so much fear? Why can't I get rid of the fear? And I think a more important question to ask is how. How are you doing fear? And when I say, how are you doing fear? Yes, we are feeling fear. Fear is an emotion. But how are you actually doing fear? And this sounds really weird, but generally, if you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is say, oh my God, I wonder what today's going to be like. Yesterday was pretty tough. Oh, I have to go here to a doctor's appointment. I have to, do the dishes. I have to do whatever. I have to get up and go to work. I have to do this and that. And what if it's really bad? What if it's really awful? And what if the pain's really out of this world? Notice how you are doing fear. Creating fear out of nothing. When you're sitting in your bedroom, you're not in any danger whatsoever. Right? You look around and go, my heart's beating, everything's fine. House isn't burning down, there's no forest fires coming towards my property. You're not in imminent danger, but yet, just through our thoughts, we can create fear or anxiety. So my question to you is, how are you doing fear? And this deconstructing of fear is useful for all sorts of other challenges in life. So if you are procrastinating, how exactly are you procrastinating? Break it down, write it down. What am I doing? I'm sitting down, I'm writing out a list of what I need to do. Great. Even just the act of writing out a list is procrastinating, because instead of writing out the list, why not just start with the most important thing? You already know what that is, so start it. If you, have doubt, how are you doing doubt? Exactly how are you doing that? Well, perhaps you keep vacillating between, maybe it's TMS, maybe it's medical. Let me go back to another medical site, like a TMS or a Wikipedia or a WebMD. How are you doing doubt or skepticism? Maybe you're talking to friends and they are suggesting that, well, maybe you should check out this doctor, or maybe you should look into alternative health, or maybe you should take, whatever, this supplement or that supplement, or change your diet, or take CBD oil, or do this process or that process. And if you're listening to all of that, you are actually doing or engaging in creating doubt. So how is really important? How is it that you are participating in creating some of the challenges or problems that you are faced with? And how are you creating fear? Again, let's look at fear and anxiety, because a lot of people ask me to talk about anxiety, and I'll touch on it here. Fear has a purpose. Fear is designed. We are supposed to feel fear when we are in imminent danger. Right now, I've said it in past videos, a car is barreling down at us, on a street, and we're crossing the street. Fear, it's going to hit me if I don't move, and you're going to move fast. Even if you hurt, you're going to move faster than you think you can. Fear is useful. Fear serves a purpose, right? When you fire up a bandsaw and start a woodworking project, you should have a healthy amount of fear. The fear that says, I got to be careful I don't chop off my fingers or cut my hand, right? Fear is useful. It protects us. So if you don't like feeling fear, perhaps what you're feeling instead is anxiety. Anxiety is the habit of worrying, spiraling out of control. So fear is normal, fear is useful, fear is exerting caution over a real and present real danger. And look around. Are you truly in danger? Right now, I would absolutely say, nope, sitting out in the sunshine or in the shade, staying away from the sunshine right now, and no real danger. But if I were to start letting my mind wander, on things that I don't want to have happen. If I were to start asking those, what if type of questions. What if my pain comes back? Oh no. What if my pain gets worse? What if I can't beat this thing? What if I can't get rid of the pain and I have this life forever and I'm in pain forever? What if? What if? What if? How many times a day do you say what if? What if the pain doesn't go away? Right? How is important, because if you really take a step back, all of this anxiety is created because you're practicing anxiety creation behaviors. These what if questions, what if I'll never get better? You start watching the movie playing in your head of Dan's awful future because Dan's full of pain. That is how you are creating anxiety. That is how you are staying in anxiety. So by deconstructing how you are creating these emotions, the anxiety, the fear, the doubt, the skepticism, how exactly are you doing it? Break it down, write it down. What are the big problems you're encountering right now? Is fear a big deal for you? Great. Top of a page, fear. And then right below that, right, how do I create fear? Right? And also, is that fear of a real and present danger? Or is it anxiety over a future imagined event or experience? Right? Is it truly fear that you are feeling? Or is it anxiety over an imagined outcome that you don't want? And then jot down how I do it, exactly how you do it. Break it down, deconstruct it. How do I do fear or anxiety? Well, I wake up and the first thing I think about is my pain or other symptoms. And then I kind of project into the future based on my experience from yesterday that, well, yesterday sucked. So project into the future, today's going to suck too. How are you creating this fear and anxiety about your future, about your present day? How? Deconstruct it. Because when you actually realize that the fear and anxiety is created by things you are doing, guess what? That is the most empowering thing in the world, because when you realize fear isn't something that just happens to you, anxiety isn't something that just happens to you out of the blue, it is something that you are creating through behaviors and things you are doing. When you realize that, it takes away the power and the emotional charge of anxiety and fear, because you realize it is something you are doing. It is not who you are. It is something you are doing. So I am doing fear. I am doing anxiety. I am doing procrastination. I am doing doubt. I am doing self-criticism. I am doing skepticism of TMS or my ability to get out of it. And I really encourage you to, right at the top of the page, write down the challenges that you're struggling with. And if it's fear, really deconstruct it. How am I doing fear? How am I becoming afraid on a daily basis or on an hourly basis or on a minute-by-minute basis? How am I becoming afraid? And is that really fear of an imminent danger? Right? Because if you believe that TMS or distraction pain is not caused by physical structure, it's more a result of this chronic state of stress, tension, negative, unresolved emotions. When you realize that it doesn't leave any lasting damage, it's not really an imminent, real danger. It's not an imminent, real threat. Yes, it's going to hurt, but it is not dangerous. So is your fear truly anxiety? And if it is anxiety, are you just projecting a future full of these things that you don't want? How are you doing anxiety? What are you doing to cause anxiety? Right? Because again, I don't think we just wake up and anxiety comes here. We create it with our thoughts. And when you realize how you are doing something, you can deconstruct it and say, okay, maybe next time I notice myself that I start here with a thought, and then that thought usually leads here, 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 and here. Before I know it, it's escalating and blowing itself out of proportion, and then I find myself in a full-blown anxiety attack. But it's how you got there that's important, because if you recognize and deconstruct how you get to a really high state of anxiety, you can notice it and change something. Okay, so next time you have that first step of how you do anxiety, let's say you have that thought like, oh no, what's today going to be like? You can say, oh, I'm doing that anxiety thing again. Let me change step 2 to say, I'm going to focus on what I'm grateful for. And by literally changing how you go about doing something, you can change your end result. So again, a simple example that you won't take as personal is procrastination. How are you doing procrastination? Well, you know you've got a bunch of stuff, so you create this whole big list, and then you look at the big important things and you go, ooh, it's going to hurt to do that because that's going to be challenging or difficult, and I may not do it right, and so let me start with something easy, or let me watch, a YouTube video, or let me hop on Facebook, right? How are you distracting yourself from doing the thing that's most important, right? And that's a day-to-day example of things that aren't quite as significantly emotionally charged as your pain or fear may be. But again, how applies to everything. And if you understand how you are doing something, you can change one of the steps in that how you are getting to a result that you don't want, right? How are you doing this thing called overeating? How? Well, starts at the grocery store, doesn't it? How are you filling your grocery cart with all the things that you know you shouldn't eat? Well, you could be looking at that box of cookies, like I sometimes do, and saying to myself, just this one box, I'll start eating well on Monday, right? That's how I am doing it. So if I recognize this is not a flaw, this is not who I am, but it's just something that I am doing, well, I can change that how. I can look at the box of cookies and go, pick it up and go, I'm doing it again. Let's put this back, right? You change your how, you change your result. So I hope you found this useful. How are you creating fear? How are you creating anxiety? Is your fear really anxiety and you're just calling it fear? Remember, these feelings, especially when you're sitting in the safety of your own home, laying in your bed or sitting on the couch and you're not in imminent danger of anything, feeling that fear is something you are doing. It's a behavior, it's a habit of thought. And when you recognize that and deconstruct it and literally break down, how do I create this anxiety in myself? You can become much more aware of when you're doing it again and saying, oh, I just started on these, this stairway to getting myself really anxious and really full of fear. So let me stop and say, oh, before I get to step 2 or 3, I'm going to change how I'm going about something. And instead of proceeding down this spiral of thoughts that lead you to something called, anxiety, you just listen and say, wow, I'm doing this thing again. So instead of taking step 2 and thinking about the future I don't want, I am going to think of something I'm grateful for. Focus on a part of my body that feels fantastic. Like, wow, my left wrist is perfect, right? Instead of thinking about the right one that hurts. So you get my point. Break down how you are doing the things that are challenging for you. If fear is a big deal, if doubt or skepticism or worry is a big deal, how exactly are you doing those things? And again, I don't believe fear happens to us. It doesn't come in from the outside unless it's a real and true present danger, like a bear charging at me across the lawn here. That's real fear. And that is happening to me, or I'm experiencing that in real life. But if all of the fear and anxiety that's being created happens as a result of your thoughts, that is something you're doing. And the great news is, I'm not offending you by saying you're causing all of this fear. What I am suggesting is that if you can do this thing called fear or anxiety, you can choose to do this thing called catching yourself and changing it before you go down that deep, whirlpool or spiral and end up in a really bad place. So I hope this was helpful. Just anytime you're feeling something overwhelming, how, right? If something happens in real life, how are you reacting to it? Not just jump immediately to the reaction, but how am I reacting to it? If the news pisses you off and you watch the news and you find yourself screaming at the TV or disagreeing or saying, oh my God, this world's going to hell. How are you working yourself into a frenzy? Well, it starts by turning on the TV, then it starts by turning on the news, and it starts by watching it, and then it starts by believing and or feeling that what these people on TV are saying is really important. Right? That's how we can work ourselves into a frenzy over things that are completely outside of our control. Right? So how are you doing the things that are causing you distress? How? Break it down. Write it down. And then notice it. Awareness is key. Once you know exactly how you're doing something, you can change it. So with that, I'm going to sign off. Hope you liked it. Comment below. And we'll talk soon. Thanks.